Hi everyone, welcome to Distraction Tactics Space Week. We are here this week to celebrate all things NASA, all things space travel. It's a really exciting week for space travel because the other day there was an attempted launch of the first US astronauts from, the first astronauts from US soil to be launched to the space station for the first time in nearly 10 years. It was very exciting, the lead up to it. Obviously it was postponed because of the weather, but it's back on for tomorrow, which is very exciting. And so we have a special space themed distraction tactics for you this week. I'm very excited to be welcoming Leah, who works at NASA, in a minute. But just want to say hello. How is everyone today? I hope you guys are all doing well, wherever you are in the world, and managing to stay distracted and healthy and looking after yourselves. So I'm gonna go and find Leah now on Instagram. We've received a lot of questions from you guys. Thank you so much to everyone who sent questions in. There are some brilliant ones. Leah is a NASA communications specialist and she works at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. We were lucky enough to meet her last year when we were on tour in the US, and I'm going to go and try and find her now. This is very exciting. If you bear with me, she should be ready to join us. Let's see if the miracle of Instagram brings it to us. Leah, how you doing?
Hi, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for joining us tonight in England. I'm not sure what time it is there, but how are you doing? How's the lockdown treating you? How is this very exciting week been going for you?
It's very interesting. Like you said, I work in Houston at NASA, and so for this specific launch, I'm actually in California at SpaceX headquarters. Right now, though, I'm in my hotel room. So just been quarantining in the hotel room. Things aren't so bad when you're looking forward to a rocket launch. So just a lot of excitement.
It was so amazing watching the build up the other day, watching the build up to it. I thought just the coverage was amazing. I thought they did such a good job. And it's so lucky, to live in the times that we do, to feel so immersed in it and so part of it. The access was incredible. How's the week been for you? I'm sure for everyone working at NASA it must be insanely exciting, but yeah, how's it been?
Yeah, it's definitely, the excitement's almost tangible. At NASA and at SpaceX, everybody's just really excited to play a part in going back, taking humans back to the space station from US soil. Personally, we did some rehearsals this week. My part in the show comes on after launch, actually. So once the astronauts launch, the party's not over. They will take about 19 hours to get to the space station. And we cover it the whole way. So it's been a lot of studying about the vehicle and the crew. But yeah, it's definitely, excitement's an understatement.
It must have been quite strange. I'm sure you were prepared for it, but quite strange, sort of, like you said, being so hyped up for this huge moment, and obviously all the work you would then have to do. And I'm sure weather is obviously such a huge factor, but and I'm sure everyone was very prepared for the fact that it might be postponed. But that must have felt so weird, just being so amped up for something and having it kind of paused for a second.
Yeah, it was funny. It was my friends and I were talking. It's kind of emotionally draining, really hoping that it's going to launch and all that excitement building up, and then having to scrub at the last minute. But of course, safety first, hands down, always.
Yeah.
And there's always another day to launch, and so we're just looking forward to the next opportunity.
My friend was very keen to know what the two astronauts would be doing. Doug, as in we obviously, for everybody working at NASA, this feeling of all the emotions of the delay, must have been a real roller coaster. But for them, like having watched them sitting there waiting for this huge moment, and then obviously it being put back, I wonder what this kind of 48 hours has been like for them. Well, they have been obviously quarantining, but.
Right, I know. It was kind of funny. I was thinking, imagine waking up and being like, oh man, I was supposed to be in space today. But they're still in Florida. Obviously, they're staying at the NASA beach house, spending some more time with their families. Both of their wives are actually astronauts as well.
Yeah, amazing.
One former astronaut. I know, right? Power couples.
No pressure on the kids.
Right, yeah. They both have young kids, and they've been, I think I even saw that they were doing some small rocket launches down near the beach. And so they're staying definitely in the theme and just enjoying time with their families.
Oh, yeah, no, I bet it must that some sort of mad, sudden new bit of extra time to spend with them. Yeah, wow. I can't imagine what they're feeling. But we had a lot of questions for you come through, and thank you so much for making the time to chat to us today. We've got just a lot of questions about working at NASA, basically. So is it all right if I just fire some questions from people who are members of our film club at you?
Yeah, I am totally ready. Bring it on.
Oh, amazing. So questions about the job. Kat in London wanted to know how you ended up working at NASA, and Alessa in Germany wanted to know, is working at NASA as cool as it sounds?
My journey to NASA was a very interesting one. I actually participated in something called a NASA Social, where we invite people who just have social media accounts. You don't have to be a big superstar or anything to come to either a launch or a special event. And when I was there, I realized that NASA needs communicators just like everybody else. And so I applied and was accepted for an internship. I did 3 internships and then joined full-time after I graduated college. It was a smooth path in a way, but unpredictable. And yes, I think working at NASA is as cool as it sounds.
Also, I just saw some people comment on the NASA beach house, which I let go unacknowledged. What's the NASA beach house?
Of course, I've never been there, but it's a house in the area of Cape Canaveral, and it's just an area that they can stay, from what I understand, and spend that time with their families while they're awaiting the launch. Obviously, they're still quarantined, and their families have been, safe in quarantining as well.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm sure we would all love to go, and never will be able to. But Clara in Germany wanted to know about your experience as a woman working in science and what advice you'd give to young women who aspire to have a career in the scientific field.
Yeah, it's a good question. I technically don't work in a scientific field because I am a communications person. I work in public affairs, but I have several different friends who work in the STEM field. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned personally, and just things that I've heard from them too, is to have a mentor. Somebody who can be a champion for you. NASA has been a really accommodating place. I've never felt treated any differently because I was a woman. And so I'm grateful for that. I feel like, my work is valued, and anybody's work is valued. We have the same mission, the same goal. It doesn't matter who you are or what you look like. We're just contributing.
That's so brilliant. We watched as one of the many films that we put forward to Film Club this week was Hidden Figures, which obviously tells such a kind of amazing, important story of kind of inclusivity at NASA, and obviously changes over time in history. But yeah, have you seen that film?
I actually haven't. I'm not very good at watching movies. I stay pretty busy. I know. I'm terrible.
No. I'm sure you have a lot to do, particularly now. So and you get to actually work at NASA, so you don't need to be watching films like the rest of us. Already access is via these movies. So Laura in Wales wanted to know if you had a standout favourite moment from working at Space Centre, and Sarah in New Zealand and Stacey in Liverpool also asked what your favourite thing about working at NASA was.
Oh, man. I mean, I've only been full-time, well, including my internships. I've been here about 4 or 5 years now. I think 4, yeah. And So there have been just so many moments. It feels like every opportunity is a big one. This launch might be a new favorite,
Yeah.
but one of my favorite stories from working at NASA, I actually had a film club, or not a film club. This is the film club, but I had a film crew that I was escorting. We were walking back to get their equipment at the end of the day, and a rover, like a rover, pulled up next to me and asked if we needed a ride, and it was an astronaut driving it.
No
So,
way.
yeah, it was just like one of those things that is only going to happen at NASA. That's one of my favorite
That's
stories.
incredible. That's like the best hitchhike to ever happen to anybody. Oh,
I know.
I'm so jealous. Like you said, something that could only really happen there. Lindsay in New Jersey says, the boy that I babysit always says that he wants to work at NASA, which is awesome. What advice would you give him and other young people to help them achieve their goal?
And, actually, I'm going to steal the advice that I've heard from astronauts.
Okay.
When it comes to this, they always say pursue something that you love, because if you love it, you're going to automatically want to work more at it, and you're going to want to do more. Obviously, we're looking for people that work in STEM fields, to help us go farther and explore further, but it's not necessarily just that. I have a communications degree, and we need all types of people at NASA to help us tell the story or work on the rocket ship, so finding something that you love and seeking out opportunities early on through internships, broadening your skill set into things that maybe make you uncomfortable but help you learn something new.
Awesome. Yeah. Imagine, I'm so jealous of your job. Sorry. Thank you so much for that tour. You're kind enough to take me and the guys on a tour of the Johnson Space Center, last year. So thank you so much for that.
It was a fun day for everybody.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so much fun. There's a question from Kirsten in Germany, which I quite liked. She said, "Do you avoid telling people what you do at parties so the whole conversation doesn't revolve around your job?" And she says, I think if I was you, it would probably be the first thing that I'd ever say, walking into a room, but yeah, no, sorry, it's the question's to you, not me.
No, I mean, I feel like you could also answer the question from the perspective of being a musician, but on my side, I don't typically bring up work at a party or if I go out. But if it comes up, I'm happy to talk about it because I love it. And for me, it's not just like a day job. It's more of a life job to tell people what NASA's doing and how we're, making life better, not just to go explore space, but also just for people on Earth. And so I think I don't mind talking about it at all.
Yeah, I'm never going to bring it up unless I'm asked. And
Yeah.
I personally do my best to swerve it, but I think if I had anything to do with NASA, I would like you said, quite happily lean into that conversation. It must be because it's just such a kind of endlessly fascinating topic, I imagine, and you must get some pretty great questions when people find out as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, every day is different, so I get a ton of questions.
So onto the launch, obviously. How's everyone feeling about it? Is it, it must be sort of just, incredibly exciting, obviously, but obviously everyone's got their fingers crossed that all the conditions are good. But how excited are you? So Sarah wanted to know how excited you were, and Cynthia in California says, obviously hoping for a successful launch. So how are you feeling?
Oh, I mean, I feel like I can't stop using the word excited. But this is my first experience to work with human spaceflight from the U.S. We've been launching from Russia. We have a great international partnership with them. I mean, it is the International Space Station after all. Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, just the opportunity. I hope I get to go to Florida and see one of the launches someday, but just to be here and be part of it and to know that this is what we're calling the new era of human spaceflight, and it really is. It's going to allow us to do so much more and go farther. And so, yeah, I mean, just excited. And also, I think when I reflect back on it later is when everything will really hit me what a big deal this is.
That's often, it goes often like a little bit after the fact when you've had a moment to sort of like relax and kind of step away from it, that you can really process mad big life events like this, which, you know, I imagine it is for you. So many good questions here about kind of the future of space travel. But Sarah in New Zealand said, do you think space travel will ever be just as normal as traveling to other countries?
I mean, it very well could be. Who at one point thought that we would be flying planes, you know,
I
like
know.
flying the sky? And so I think especially as we get more reusable capability with rockets and spacecraft, that it'll be more of an opportunity for people to do space travel. I think Lauren, who was on the commentary team the other day for the launch, she mentioned, imagine if you had to throw away the plane every time you made a trip and build a brand new one. It would be so expensive to go. So as we find out more, and we're able to reuse those materials more, it should become more affordable so more people can take that trip.
Yeah, that's such a huge leap forward. I was listening to the Daily today or yesterday, and they were talking about the launch and made a really interesting point about you know, private companies becoming involved, and you know, the move a bit like with, you know, with air travel, that it was initially just created for kind of for post and cargo, and then the move into kind of commercial flights, and you know, perhaps we're witnessing the beginning of that now, you know, with space travel, which would be, you know, who knows what that opens up. So there's quite a lot of questions as well. So I'm aware of not using up too much of your time, but
No, bring it on.
But there were some questions moving away from the launch. Is there anything you'd like to sort of add about the launch before we move on?
Oh, I mean, I would encourage everybody oh, sorry, what was that?
No, I was going to suggest you use the word excited again.
Oh, I'm sure I will a million more times. But yeah, I just encourage everybody to tune in, because watching the launch live, I don't know, something about just knowing that people are going on behalf of all of us. It just means something because they're going. And they don't just get a great view. You know, they're doing so much science and research on the International Space Station, that, you know, we're able to apply to life on Earth. And so I encourage everybody to tune in. This is a huge day just for America, for the world, and spaceflight in general, to have this capability from American soil.
It is so exciting. So our last few questions are going to be about, well, they're sort of more general space film questions. Mariam in England wanted to know if you have any idea if film companies approach NASA for help in producing more accurate portrayals of space in film.
And yeah, some of them do. We have several people that work with any film companies that are interested in learning more about what space travel is like. Sometimes they come on tours like you guys did and check out the facilities to learn more about what mission control looks like and how things operate there. So they do have the opportunity to learn more about how space works.
And I guess you guys, if you have the time and you're willing, are like an amazing resource for them, because we looked at a few of the films that we looked at kind of feature NASA quite heavily, as you would, I think, if you're making a realistic film. It's always really heartening. I don't know. I think as a kind of brand, it's just it's such a optimistic, positive, forward-thinking thing, and it's I don't know. It's comforting to see it kind of anywhere. I even have it like on a T-shirt, or 12. But yeah, no, and we've always got such a, you know, every time we've been lucky enough to visit,
they have to make sure that there are no leaks, so they perform leak checks. You know, it takes quite a long time to make sure everything's fitting properly and that the astronauts are comfortable. and ready for the mission, you know, depending on if that's a spacewalk or a launch.
By the way, the suits that they were wearing for the launch the other day, which I assume they're wearing tomorrow, very cool.
Yeah, those are sleek. Those are
Yeah.
definitely different than anything that our astronauts have ever worn. So yeah, it's really cool. It's very
real, like,
futuristic.
there, and also in the capsule as well, like a real aesthetic step forward. But it's this kind of amazing retro futuristic chic that I thought was really cool. As someone with absolutely no taste, and also someone who knows very little about the all the kind of technological work that would have gone into it, I thought it looked really cool for what it's worth, and I think a lot of people agreed. Speaking of spacesuits and I guess non-astronauts or astronauts going into space, Marjana in Russia wanted to know if a person could withstand a space flight without any physical training. So could you or I, just like, if we had to say some kind of crazy film plot, we had to suddenly like go straight to the space station with no training, do you think our bodies would be able to cope?
Oh, you know, I feel like, well, obviously you have to be in good shape. Our astronauts are in good physical shape. They work out very frequently on Earth, and even more so when they're in space. So good physical shape is really important. I think there would be a lot that we would miss out on not knowing how to operate the spacecraft or even put on the suit correctly. So
I mean, sure, we'd be terrible. We'd be terrible. Well, I would be. I'm sure you'd be great, but.
Oh, I'm touched. Thanks.
So Talia in Australia, I'm going to end with a couple of quick ones. Talia in Australia wanted to know what the most obscure space fact you know is. So Taylor, I just misread her name. Sorry, Taylor in Australia.
That's a good question. I feel like there are so many, but one of my favorite, and this is a little bit gross, but okay, so think about when you're walking on Earth, the bottoms of your feet get calluses because they get kind of rough. Well, when you're in space, you don't use the bottom of your feet. You're not walking. And so those calluses start to peel off the bottom of your feet, and you have extremely smooth feet on the bottom. But at the International Space Station, we have these handrails. So they're on the floor, the ceiling, everything is up and everything is down in space. And so they can't stand, they loop their toes under those handrails. And so the tops of their toes start getting the calluses that were once on the bottom of their feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. The transferring of calluses from one side of the foot to the other. That's a great fact. I can't imagine just existing in zero gravity for the amount of time that they do, and then coming back down to Earth. I cannot comprehend the sort of impact on your body that it must have, suddenly being back down in the atmosphere within gravity. It must be so mad. And the calluses on the top of your feet, I imagine, are the least of your worries. And then a last question from Alma in Sweden wanted to know if you have a favorite star.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I live in Houston, and so I don't get to see the stars as much as I did growing up. I lived in Georgia and in the mountains, and I saw the stars all the time. So I feel like now I'm always looking for the Orion constellation, and so looking to see the stars in Orion's belt, because those are just easy for me to pick out, being in a city and the light pollution. So that's I guess my favorite constellation, at least. Maybe not a specific star. I mean, our sun's a pretty good one though.
Yeah, it's pretty great and pretty important for everything. Leah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for including us in such a kind of massive, exciting week. And yeah, good luck tomorrow, and good luck with everything from the launch onwards. Thank you so much, and yeah, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk with you. And before I go, I did want to relay a hello from Jeannie.
Hi Jeannie, if you're watching. Yeah, Jeannie is Jeannie is a wonderful person, and yeah, thank you so much. It like our sort of vague relationship with you guys at NASA means so much to us, and yeah, we can't believe we get to speak to you and get to sort of go on trips around the Space Center. So thank you so much, and good luck this weekend. It's such an exciting time.
Thank you
Thanks
so much. I hope
and thanks to
fun.
everyone in the film club says thank you. So yeah, take care.
Yes, absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Leah. Thanks. Wow, that was awesome. How lucky are we? Okay, so now that we've spoken about to NASA directly, and I can't quite believe that that's real life, we're going to move on to the films of the week, of which there were quite a lot, because it's quite hard to pick a film because there's so many good space films. So I'm just gonna go and find Charlotte, who's gonna join us for the next bit. Hello.
Hello. That's an epic jingle, and Leah was amazing. She's amazing.
Wasn't she incredible?
Yeah.
How lucky are we? We've been so lucky on our distraction tactics, our funny little club. Haven't we been lucky? Looking amazing and very spacey this evening. How are you, Charlotte?
I'm really good. How are you?
I feel seriously underdressed. This does glow in the dark. Also, I've got the moon mug that Charlotte very kindly gave me, which changes when it gets hot, and has a little space boot at the bottom as well. Yeah, thank you. You're so kind. How are you?
Really good. I'm really ready to be unlocked and unleashed, though. It's time soon.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm not sure what it's like. You know, we're lucky enough to have people from all over the world, and like, you know, it's obviously different in every country. But here in the UK, things are starting to sort of loosen up a little bit.
The chinks, but seeing all these space movies, which were all about claustrophobia and being locked in, and you know, especially Moon, just wanting to get out, I was identifying with that, definitely.
Yeah, massively. So we have loads of films to cover, and I guess we don't want to keep people here all bloody night, but we put them into categories.
Impossible to choose, wasn't it?
So hard to pick, yeah, or totally impossible. But do you want to kick us off? So we started on Earth, and we thought we'd sort of get further and further away from home. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the first film?
Well, we chose Hidden Figures. So Leah, hopefully that inspired us. It was just great to have a space film that focused on three smart, intelligent, kick-ass, brilliant women who made such a difference and who are such unsung heroes. I mean, guess the clue's in the title of Hidden Figures, and it's just a feel-good movie. It's fantastic. Did you like it, Dan?
I loved it. Yeah, like you said, it's feel good. It's apparently, well, it's based on a book which I haven't read. That's meant to be amazing, but yeah, I love this film, and I stupidly hadn't even thought to include it until you brought it up. But it's great. It tells a really important story. And it's just incredibly impressive. Just seeing, you know, super smart people help change the world, particularly when, you know, for African Americans at the time, you know, society is kind of stacked against them, unfortunately, and you know, as it still is, and obviously seeing what's happening in America at the moment, it's still incredibly troubled. But yeah, no, it's I thought as a film, it's sort of really well put together, and it tells the story really well. And you picked out the bathroom scene as well. as a highlight, which I
and to
it's just,
Pharrell Williams running. I mean, just extraordinary.
yeah,
And then
so
Kevin got the great line, at NASA, we all pee the same color. That was great. Yeah.
indeed.
Otherwise,
So what do we have? We had Simran from the US and Ina in Belgium. Both loved the film and wanted to know what your favorite part of it was.
well, I guess that running scene was just brilliant. I mean, that's the stand-up scene that everyone talks about, and it's just to show visually that kind of endemic racism and sexism and what people had to go through to work there, and what an extraordinary achievement it was. I love that, and whenever I think of that movie, I think of that scene. What about you?
It's fantastic, and some amazing performances as well. Janelle Monáe, I think it was potentially her first film, and she's brilliant in it. But no, the whole cast are, oh, she's amazing. And then just a comment here before we move on. We could talk about this film for ages, but we're gonna have to move on because we've got like 10 to get through. Maddie Park says, as a woman in a STEM field, Hidden Figures is my all-time favorite feminist movie. So that's pretty awesome. And also, you know, having just spoken to Leah, it felt like a nice place to start. So next up, very different film, but still set on Earth, is
WALL-E, is it?
WALL-E. Yeah. I love this poster. In space, no one can hear you clean. But WALL-E obviously is a Pixar movie set in a kind of dystopian, hypothetical future.
It's a real love story, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah, it really is. And like with so many Pixar films, they managed to be obviously technically incredible and impressive. But yeah, the fact that it tells this story with kind of no dialogue for the first third of the film, and it's so emotive. It feels in parts like some of the Pixar shorts that they used to show at the beginning of the films, almost kind of like one of those, but you know, extended out into a feature length. But it's I guess I love it because I think, you know, it's kind of
sadness to it, isn't there? I think someone asked us how many times you cried when you watched it. Can you remember? I think
the entire film was just one long tear for me. No, I don't know. I'm not sure if I cried in WALL-E, actually, because as I've mentioned already, have a heart of stone. But it is beautiful. It's such an incredibly told film, and it's you know, I think kind of interesting message for Pixar to want to address in terms of our treatment of the planet, and you know, and I guess a version of what humanity could become. Ellie C. Marsh asked, how close is WALL-E to becoming true? What do you reckon?
Ooh.
And Jackson M. Davis said, do you think that the Earth will ever turn out like WALL-E or something similar?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, in the past, I'd say no, but currently what we're living through, this kind of apocalypse has come so quickly upon us. I think it's true. I think that's what's so interesting about animation, or even taking the space genre, is that you can explore, you can push the narrative of what's possible with humanity and explore it in a completely different way and look at it through a different prism. So I guess there are elements of those that ring true for us all, and I think absolutely there's a part of me that says that could be possible if we're not careful, and on the flip side, humanity has that brilliant way of sort of burrowing out of all problems and bringing the best out. But there is that, yes. But I think there is that potential, absolutely. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, let's hope that it's a warning shot to us to not end up like that. But you know, it feels pretty. The parts of it that are kind of, you know, parodying what humanity is like feel pretty on the nose, and I guess that's the point. So I'm really aware that we are.
Yes,
because these films are so great, we're kind of like luxuriating in them a little bit. So those were our two Earth films. Where are we off to next?
Now we're off to the moon. Man on the moon. I mean, and one of the first ever films that the Méliès brothers made, A Trip to the Moon, one of my favorite movies. So, I mean, history has this whole cinema of moon, and a man's fascination with moon is, you know, endemic in our cultural history. And there are so many brilliant films about the moon. It was very, very hard to choose, wasn't it?
Yeah, so hard. And like with all these categories, actually, our selections, although these are films that we love, are almost kind of not arbitrary, but, you know, just having to pick and cut out so many amazing ones. You know, we received a fair amount of stick for missing out a lot of classics. But so the two films that we picked to represent the moon were Moon and Apollo 11. And I guess with all of this, we tried to pick films that felt really different from each other. And Moon was the directorial debut of Duncan Jones, and is
David Boyd's son. Yeah,
and there's a film, you know, it's a fictional film about kind of isolation and you know, and kind of cloning on a very empty space station on the moon. On the flip side, Apollo 11 is this amazing documentary about the man's journey to the moon.
11,000 hours of footage, 70 mil reconstructed to be this beautiful, beautiful epic. And it's such, when you see it, it's so audacious, isn't it? I mean, how man came up with this plan that we were going to shoot a rocket up and it was going to go twice around the moon, and then it was going to link up, and then it was going to land and didn't have enough fuel, and then it was going to go back up and relink and then go back, and everyone was going to live. It's just like insane. It's like a space movie.
You can't believe that it's real, and for certain minds to have thought that big and actually made it happen. And as a film, it's so brilliantly put together, using, like you said, it's kind of using lots of found footage, and it's really beautifully restored. Basically, it's a hard sell because it's well, as a documentary, there's no narrator, but the whole thing kind of washes over you, and it like weaves through the story so brilliantly. Like, I can't recommend it more. Oh, you're frozen.
The music's wonderful. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
You're back. Do you want to talk briefly about Moon before we move on a little bit, because it's such an amazing film and it's a different film.
Yeah. And what I love as an actor, Sam Rockwell. Imagine getting to play all the parts, and he plays them so brilliantly, all the different roles. It's just fantastic. Yeah. And on quite a low budget, he really, I think, explored that thing that we have about humanity. Are we unique? Are we special? Do we have meaning? There are millions of us being born all the time. What is our place in the world?
Obviously, doesn't matter because I'm filming stuff off my phone via Instagram, so quality is not what we're here for.
So let's go into space then. Should we go up into space now?
Yes, into outer space. And we picked, the two films that we picked were...
What do you think?
Drum roll. Gravity, which is such an amazing film.
Yeah, and with a great central lead, a beautiful woman, fantastic.
Yeah.
Another smart role, because so often space films in the past were centered on men, and I love her kind of passion, and it's groundbreaking. The kind of cinematography took 4.5 years for Alfonso Cuarón to make it. It was a labor of love. It was just extraordinary, an extraordinary achievement of filmmaking. Don't you think?
It really is. I mean, I remember seeing it at the time. I was so excited, and you're right there. It's such a stressful, visceral experience, but in terms of putting us as viewers somewhere where we'll never be able to go in real life, you know, it was amazing. And you were saying earlier about
feeling.
Oh, it was. It's really incredible. But also the sort of what a lot of these films seem to try and address, obviously, is the kind of the idea of being a human being and being a physical person and having to be put yourself through this kind of ridiculously out of this world experience that, like, our bodies potentially aren't even meant to be put through these things, and having to kind of function. And you were saying a bit about Sandra Bullock and shooting the film how full on
Yes,
that experience for her was.
they created this huge. There is a whole documentary on it, but they created this huge rig, this structure to get her to have that weightlessness. And she was in a suit. She had a helmet on. She couldn't even hear herself speaking. Sometimes the camera flew straight at her face, and she couldn't show it in her face that this camera was going to come straight towards her. She was being gyrated around on this sort of scope to get this sense of weightlessness, and she was very alone. She said she felt isolated, and apart from when George Clooney very sweetly arrived for 2 weeks of the shooting at the 4.5 years. I guess she wasn't shooting because a lot was production, but she said she found it very isolating and lonely, and she felt like a space voyager. And
Must have been hard, so intense.
Yeah, like so many of these films, like Wall-E or Moon, they are really all about human emotions, wanting to love. She wanted to get back to her child. There's something in the outer worldness of it. There's something very human about it.
Yeah. I think we've sort of just answered it, but Olivia McCormack wanted to know how gravity-less scenes are filmed, and is it using wires or something else? But like, I think particularly in this film, it was
huge. Yeah, Alfonso really pushed the envelope of filmmaking possibilities. And if you're interested, go online. There are documentaries about it, and he talks about it. And there's a really nice interview I just read with him and me, and Sandra Bullock talking about it, and it's really worth watching if you're interested. Yeah. I
mean, yeah, I haven't seen it, but you've sold it to me. You sold it to me. And then next up, it's so hard talking about these films, these amazing films so briefly. So apologies to everybody.
Apologies.
But the next film is the incredible 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is, for so many people, it kind of set, it created the genre. It created so many iconic images. Yeah, I mean, it's just, what a film. It's amazing.
It's still one of the greatest movies ever made. It's so bold. I mean, scenes of just somebody breathing, or to start with the beginning of man with monkeys, and then to end with this sort of baby in a bubble and dying. And
it's batshit crazy is what it is. It is absolutely bonkers. But like, for such a sort of famous, classic, beloved film, it's really strange. I watched it again recently, and it's, it is amazing. It is beautiful. It is such an achievement. But yeah, like you said, it starts with this really long sequence of like apes pre-man, just interacting. Or it's almost like it feels almost like a documentary, like it's in the pacing of it. But this huge Hollywood soundtrack of these classical pieces that soundtrack all these amazing, I don't know, it's just, and has that very famous cut of the bone being thrown in the air that cuts to the space station. There are lots of people had a lot to say about this film, lots of film club members. Milena Meyer said, watching 2001 made me realise how many shots and tropes from it are used in every space film. And it did kind of lay the groundwork for so many of the things that we take for granted and we take as the norm.
Not just film, but also it's so prescient about, there are scenes with video booths, and there's so much, and a sort of some pandemic on the earth, and there's so much that seems like it's foretelling or foreshadowing what we're about to go through. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. What's your favourite scene?
I don't know. Maybe in the room at the end, just because it's so bizarre. But just so many of the sort of really wide shots of space and of the sort of vehicles floating through space. And I also really love a lot of the aesthetics, the kind of really retro futuristic, from the and how sort of forward thinking it was, when he speaks to his family member on the kind of video phone in that booth, and just the idea that normal human behavior and boring things like transport and getting around and waiting and waiting rooms and all, you know, all these kind of things that exist.
And meeting, it's
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Right, I'm looking at the time, and it's
Yes. Maybe
let's
it's
move.
time. Do we want to do some more? Oh, you can go straight on to your special guests. We can talk another time.
Oh, it's hard though. We had Interstellar. We were gonna go into, you know, we were gonna go even further out into Galactic. But there's, you know, Interstellar we could talk about for so long. Lena in South Korea made a point which I wanted to bring up, which you mentioned earlier when we were chatting about this film. But she said Interstellar is a great movie about space, but mainly a film about family love, and especially paternal love. And that's what I know when you were talking about it earlier, you said, you know, it's this mind-boggling, you know, sci-fi drama, bringing in black holes, wormholes, humanity, time, aging, family, shot beautifully, with this amazing soundtrack from Hans Zimmer. But at the same time, ultimately, despite all that and the confusion, and, you know, so many people will walk away from it thinking, what is this mindfuck I just watched? But ultimately, you know, it's about love, which is nice.
Love, yeah, it really is, and that's the message from it, and just the rest, let it all just wash over you, because it's amazing. Yeah. But what we could do like a special space chat and then put it online, because I'm just aware that you've got so many amazing people to talk to tonight, and I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh, it's not, Charlotte, it's never taken up your time. This is your film club too.
Okay.
But I mean, we could keep talking about these films for sure. Do you want to speak about The Martian a little bit before we?
The Martian, yeah. So what's interesting is that, you know, we've got Ridley Scott, who made Aliens, a seminal, incredible movie, and then he's made Martian, and he has this understanding of space and what makes a really good story. Matt Damon's amazing. What did he say?
Yeah.
You got to science the shit out of this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of a flimsy story, but it's again about the indomitable human spirit, which we love, just like working it all out. And it's written by this kind of crazy geeky person that we love. I can't remember his name, sorry, but it's this sort of how with humanity and a bit of science, you can kind of get through. And also Mars is fascinating, isn't it? It might be our next port of call.
Yeah, the next frontier. It is fascinating, and also a really nice representation of NASA as well, I thought, again.
Yeah, really nice.
So like maybe we should talk about these films, because we were going to talk about Alien as well. Also, a shout out to all the films we weren't able to talk about, like
sorry.
From Gattaca to Armageddon to Star Wars and all the Star Wars films, to Guardians of the Galaxy.
I mean,
yeah.
Arrival, I love.
Arrival, yes.
Spaceball, Force, all the space.
Oh, someone mentioned Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is obviously a stone cold classic. But you know, we missed out.
It for us. There were literally over 100 films, and choosing it's impossible. We'll have to come back. Again.
We will have to come back. But these ones, I can highly recommend these all. So thank you so much again for everything. Thank you for your integral role in the visual jingle, which people might have noticed. And thank you for my mug.
Thank you.
So Charlotte, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Take care. Bye. All right, guys. So now we have a special guest, who, while we were doing these film clubs, we've not been able to see him at all. But all being well, it's Will.
Hey, dude.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's it feel to be the secret surprise super special guest on the Distraction Tactics Film Club this week?
What I realised is I've never been a secret surprise guest, or I've never had a secret surprise anything in my life.
Oh, what? Ever?
I've never been a surprise, had a surprise.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Mate.
Not even like that I want a surprise party at some point.
Not even, yeah, dropping some big hints here. Not even on tour. I guess when it's your birthday on tour, you know that they're probably gonna do something annoying, so it's not really a surprise.
Yeah.
And someone smashing a cake in your face doesn't really count, does it? How are you, dude? How's it going?
Good. I got a bit hot walking in the hills, and then had a moment earlier with Awoy where she said I'd gone completely doolally. So she's really concerned that I'm giving myself heat stroke. I don't think I have. I think she was just not ready for my left field wacky personality.
I don't want to be that guy, but have you drunk enough water?
That's what she kept saying. And I said, does Coke and beer count as water? Apparently not.
Oh, I think they do. They you know, that's what the scientists say. That's what NASA would say. They would definitely say it counts. Are you excited about the second attempt at the space launch tomorrow? Secretly,
I was quite pleased the weather was bad the other time, because it meant we got to do it again, because it was so much fun. And
it was really fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm super excited.
We get to hang out with Arne Brewster again, and I've got another surprise guest, because that's the wonders of Zoom, as much as we all might hate it and be completely sick of it by now, is that we can pull in as many people as we fucking want.
That's so exciing.
Is
it someone I know?
Yeah, really, really well. It's not. Yeah. It probably won't be a huge amount of a surprise to you. So, thank you for coming. Thank you for your film suggestions, which were pretty great. Was it Armageddon?
Armageddon, Gravity that you covered, and Alien.
Alien, yeah. Well, which we were going to get onto, but we didn't have time to. Alien or Aliens?
So kind of the sequel is genuinely as good as the first one, which is rare. I mean, the only other one I can think of is Terminator, where Terminator 2 is probably as good as the first one.
That is true. Yeah. Which did you see first? I think I saw Terminator 2. Feels like almost, I don't know, like it was bigger. But yeah, Aliens has the. So I was trying to find. I've got notes because I'm really organised, but I've somehow managed to lose them, even though I've been sitting in the same spot for the last hour. But someone was totally appalled that we picked Alien and not Aliens because of.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw someone said that. I mean, I also quite liked, controversially, was it Alien 4 where they're on a prison complex?
Oh yeah, and people love to hate that film.
I really liked that one. That was, as a kid, one of my favourites. Is that one with Scott Skinner?
Yeah, it is that one. Tom Holland in the UK said it should have been Aliens, not Alien. Come on. It even had the "Get away from her, you bitch" line in it and everything, which is a good point. But it didn't have the famous first chest explosion. So, Will, I had some questions for you.
Okay.
From some people, which I found them. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. Dania in Italy wanted to know: you have to move to space to survive. What and who would you take with you?
I would take my fiance. I mean, I'm only not one person.
My fiance.
Yeah, probably my fiance. It's kind of a toss up between her and my best friend Giles, but if we wanted to continue the human species, she's probably the best bet there.
Probably, yeah.
What would I take? I mean, I should say a guitar or something, shouldn't I? Maybe a cello, so that I seem slightly. Rover. I take a space rover.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
did you hear the bit where Leah earlier was talking about?
Yeah, he just picked up my note.
Someone's just hanging out and just got a.
Leah was literally the coolest person in the world, and playing it down a lot.
I know. Oh yeah, I'm insanely jealous. Claire in Phoenix, USA, says, "Is there a particular movie that first sparked your interest in space?" And I'm probably going to answer for you here and say Armageddon.
Okay, we'll go for Armageddon. I genuinely hadn't seen Armageddon until about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh wow!
I'd seen the last scene, so I knew what had happened about a million times. But every time I've ever turned on the TV and it's been on, I've watched the end. And I decided to take some. By the
last scene, do you mean the "I don't want to miss a thing" end credit sequence?
That bit. So I took a Will evening when everyone was out. It was just me in the house, and I got some popcorn and I watched Armageddon on my own. And I think it might be the best film that's ever been made ever in history. And Ben Affleck is just a dreamboat, and it's got its high drama. It's got tragedy.
You don't know what's going to happen.
I quite like the fact that, do you remember at the same time there was Deep Impact that was clearly just a rival
Yeah.
studio that had gone, we're going to make one too. So
I love it when Hollywood when Hollywood accidentally release two almost identical films to rival each other, and we as the public have to pick. Who do you think, stepping back from it, like however many years later, which do you think is more of a classic, Deep Impact or Armageddon?
I mean, Armageddon's the one that stood the test of time. Although they're both good. It's like Bugs Life versus Ants.
It's sometimes it's hard. Georgia and Essex wanted to know, if you were asked to go into space, would you go? Because particularly in the context of SpaceX and the developments of the moment in terms of moving towards space tourism. I mean, look, let's face it, neither of us are ever going to have the opportunity to go anywhere fucking near space, but it may be a possibility in our lifetime. And if you were asked to go, would you go?
I think definitely I would. It depends how long for. If you said, can you go to Mars and live there for the rest of your life, I might be slightly more reticent. But if it was, can you go and do a once around the world, one orbit, then yeah. This kind of related. I remember when we were in NASA and we were chatting to one of the astronauts, because we've met so many astronauts. And I remember one of them saying he was a nervous astronaut and that there were some that were just chilled and like, this is totally normal. And he said the whole time he was up there, he was really aware that just outside this tiny thin bit of metal was the most inhospitable place imaginable. And I just found it really interesting that even like there were even astronauts who are legitimately concerned about this is not as safe as it could be.
I love that he identified as a nervy astronaut as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's face it, that would be me as well. Dude, thank you so much for joining tonight as our super special surprise secret guest. I've been chatting for fucking ages, so I should probably leave people alone. But dude, thank you so much. I will see you soon. Take care, mate.
See you soon, dude.
Bye. Thank you, Will, for joining us. All right, guys, I've been going on for such a long time. This is probably the longest film club in history, in the very short history of our film clubs. But I just wanted to chuck a few questions at some of you guys real quick before we finish. So I'm going to pull in. Dun, 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 dun. Anne, hello, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. What about you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. How's it going? How's lockdown life treating you? You all right?
Yeah, we're actually not in lockdown anymore.
Oh, no way. Where are you?
Yeah, we're just free to go everywhere with masks, so everybody's just like going back to normal, I guess, but which is also kind of nice because our local food bank, which I used to volunteer at, just reopened, so I could go back and help out a little bit, so that's quite nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But mostly I've been just like fucking up my sleeping pattern and procrastinating.
What town are you in?
Leipzig in Saxony in the eastern part of Germany.
Thank you so much for all the work you put into Film Club and all the things you sent in. It's been really amazing and we've just appreciated it so much, so thank you.
Yeah, my friend Molly actually helped me, so just a quick
amazing.
shout out to her. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Molly, too. And nice one for working at a food bank. That's fucking awesome. It's a real, obviously it's really sad that they have to exist, but they do such amazing work.
Right back to you. You do it too, right?
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, just, I guess feeling very lucky and wanting to do anything to try and be useful and helpful to some, people who are less fortunate. Anyway, to space. So I have 3 questions for you. What is your favorite space movie and why?
Probably either Moon or Life, because they both fuck me up really like a lot. I don't know if you've seen Life by Daniel Espinosa, but it's really unsettling.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's basically about just watch it. It's really good, and it has a good plot twist in the end.
All right, good. That sounds well up my street. What have you been doing to keep yourself distracted?
I have housemates, and we have way too many drinks every night. Basically, reading a lot, watching movies, trying to make music, and like not doing it well, I guess, but just trying to do anything creative. I think, yeah.
Sounds like you've had a productive lockdown. When did lockdown finish in Leipzig?
I think like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, actually. It was really short, just like like 4 weeks, I guess.
Man, fucking strange times. And finally, would you go to space if you had the chance?
Yeah, like considering what's going on Earth right now, I would probably get as far away from Earth right now as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, me too. Because I was chatting to my friend earlier, and he was saying, he was like, he said it on condition of how long it would take. He was like, if you had to commit like 3 years of your life to it, maybe not. He put his limit at a year. He was like, if it would be like a year and a half, then I think I'd do it. Which I thought was kind of insane, because if you had the chance to go to space, you'd go to space. But that's me speaking. I can't speak for him.
But what planet would you go to if you had a chance?
I think I'd like to sort of start at the moon, because it's kind of close and it's been done, and we see how that goes, and then maybe go on from there. Obviously Mars is kind of a bit done, isn't it? Like, obviously not, no one's been there yet, but films already exist about it. What about you?
Probably Saturn, because it's been my favorite planet when I was younger, and I did a like presentation in primary school and kind of stuck in my head, but that's probably really stupid. But
No,
yeah, I mean,
that's completely fair enough. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
yeah, thank you.
And for everything. And look after yourself. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Take care. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You too.
Thanks,
Bye.
Anne. Cheers. Bye. All right, guys. We have time for one more guest. And when I say we have time, I mean I've just been chatting for way too long. But we would like to introduce. Oh, it didn't work. All right, so our final guest wasn't able to join us. But thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you to Charlotte. Thank you to Leah from NASA for answering our questions, and just being generally pretty fascinating. Yeah, guys, thank you for joining me this week. For joining us here at Distraction Tactics. Enjoy the launch tomorrow if you're free. I think it's around 8:30 UK time. We will be watching. Me, the guys will be offering an alternative commentary. If you want to hear us, Daniel from Joywave, and a surprise guest talk some rubbish about our experiences of NASA, and as much as we can possibly find out about the launch and watch it happen with us, please join us on our YouTube page. Should be fun. Anyway, I hope everyone's all right. I hope you have a good week. Have a good weekend. Take care. Look after yourselves. Stay distracted. And I'll leave you with this.